Inshallah, today I'll be presenting an overview of the rule book Sharia Standards, known in Arabic as Al-Ma'ayir Al-Shariah. And we will be going over the introduction of the book and also an example. So this is the first section, which is the introduction to the book and the standards. So first we would like to speak about the acceptance of the book. How has this book been accepted worldwide? We see that this book, this rule book, has been adopted as a mandatory requirement for Islamic financial institutions to use as their mi'yar, as their criteria, as their rubric in many different countries across the entire world, such as Pakistan, such as Bahrain, such as UAE, such as Qatar, and many other countries. And even more countries have adopted this book as a rubric partially, not fully, but they've adopted it partially. Now about the author. Who wrote Al-Ma'ayir Al-Shariah, the Sharia Standards? So this was actually not authored by an individual, rather it was authored by a team of individuals known as AAOIFI, which stands for the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions. What is their job? Why were they founded? They were founded in 1991 in Bahrain for the sole purpose of unifying Islamic finance throughout the entire world. Their goal was to make a mi'yar, to make a standard throughout the entire world for Islamic finance that every single Islamic financial institution can follow. So now, what exactly are these Sharia standards? What are Al-Ma'ayir Al-Shariah? So first off, they are authoritative Sharia frameworks issued by AAOIFI. Each and every single standard is a rubric. There are 60 of them, and they are on the topic of fiqh al-mu'amalat. For example, the topic of ijara, the topic of murabaha, the topic of mudaraba, the topic of musharaka, topics like these. You will find these modern, contemporary topics related to Islamic finance within this book. And each and every single Sharia standard has everything you need to know related to that specific topic within that Sharia, within that standard. So why are these standards important? Why do we need to follow the Sharia standards of AAOIFI? Why can't we just stick to the books of our own madhahib? Why don't we just stick to books from hundreds, 200, 300 years ago? Why do we have to use this book today? Why do we have to use these standards today? So we see that these standards are very important because they provide the global rule book for Islamic finance. Before, hundreds of years ago, the world was split. You know, Malikis in one section of the world, Hanafis in one section of the world, Hanbalis in another section of the world. They all had their own different standards that they would follow in Islamic finance. But today, Islamic finance has been globalized. The entire world has become one entire global village. And Islamic finance itself, fiqh al-mu'amalat itself, is a loose area in fiqh. It is an area that is not as strict as other areas of fiqh, meaning that you can take opinions from other madhahib within some furu'at of fiqh al-mu'amalat. So because of that, this is why it's very important. The Sharia standards, they unify Islamic finance throughout the entire world. So this is importance of it continued. Another reason that they are important is because they ensure Sharia compliance. They make sure in every single standard that the standard avoids interest, it avoids excessive uncertainty, it avoids gambling, it avoids exploitative and unpermissible actions. And another reason for their importance is that they create global uniformity. Before AAOIFI, every country and every bank followed its own Sharia board. Now the AAOIFI industry, they give the Islamic finance industry standard definitions, standard contract procedures, standard Sharia interpretations, and this helps Islamic finance operate internationally with consistent rules. And the last and final reason why these Sharia standards are of extreme significance is that they reduce confusion and disputes. If it were not for the Sharia standards, there would be so many fights and disputes amongst Islamic financial institutions throughout the entire world today. One bank would differ in one rule, and another bank would call this something halal, while the other Islamic institution would call it haram. This would lead to dispute between these two banks, even within the same country. Now imagine how many disputes there would be within all the different countries across the world. Disputes upon disputes. If it were not for AAOIFI and Al-Ma'ayir Shariah, the Sharia standards, then these disputes would go on forever. But they have solved the issue of these disputes with unifying all of these Islamic financial institutions all together under this one rubric. So this is what a Sharia standard looks like. Inshallah, we'll be getting into the summary of a specific Sharia standard, which we chose to summarize. Every single Sharia standard, they focus on a specific contract. Every single Sharia standard, they state the basis and objective. They define the arkan, they define the pillars, they define the conditions for each contract. They define what is permissible within this contract in today's time and what is impermissible. And they also apply modern applications. They will teach you about every single modern application of this contract in today's time, what to avoid and what is permissible, what you're allowed to do. So this is the summary of a Sharia standard. This standard is called debit cards, charge cards, and credit cards. In this standard, we will be going over every single thing related to instrumental payments through cards in today's time, whether that be through debit cards, through charge cards, or through credit cards. Now, the purpose of this standard is to explain the types and characteristics of all of these different cards and to clarify the Sharia rulings of all these cards and the reasons people use these cards. And also, this applies to all the different types of cards in our time. So the common characteristics of these types of cards is that they are all used by an institution. They are given by an institution to a customer. They are all used as a means of payment. You can use each one of them to withdraw cash. You can use them. They are accepted by merchants, meaning businesses, as a form of payment. So now, what is a debit card? A debit card is a card that you issue, that the bank issues for you only when you have an amount of wealth in your bank account. Meaning that whatever you can only spend from that which is inside your bank account. If I have $5,000 in my account, in my bank account right now, and the bank issues a card for me, then my limit is that $5,000. I can never pay beyond the $5,000. Because of this, there is no interest involved with this debit card, and there may be some fees. The fee just may be the issuing fee. The bank may ask you to pay just a small sum of money to issue this card. But other than that, there are no fees, there's no interest. So because of that, the ruling of this card is that it is permissible to use the debit card. Next, we move on to charge cards. Charge cards are the credit cards of today's time. What does that mean? That means that you go to the bank, and it doesn't matter whether you have an amount in your bank account or not. If you don't have the amount of $5,000, the bank will still issue you this charge card with the maximum spending ability that you can only spend $5,000 with this card. And initially, there is no riba, there's no interest involved with this card, unless. So there's a paying back time. You have to pay back the bank at a specific amount of time, whether that be monthly or annually, whatever the period is. If you pay the bank back late, if you delay the payment, then the bank will charge you extra. They will charge you interest on that delayed payment. So the usage of these cards is allowed so long as you do not delay the payment, and because of the delaying of that payment, they will have to charge you interest. So delaying the payment on a credit card is haram. But other than that, the usage with these conditions, the Sharia ruling is that it is permissible to use these credit cards. And the last and final card is the credit card. These are credit cards that were used around 10, 15, 20 years ago. They are cards that provide a revolving credit facility. What does that mean? That means the bank, they give you an amount, a set limit. Let's say it's $15,000. You are able to spend from within these $15,000, but you don't have to pay it all back right away. At the end of the month, if you pay back $10,000, it's fine. They give you a grace period. But you will end up paying more. They will increase the interest. The thing with this card is that from day one, they are charging you interest. They are charging you more than what you used. If you used this card to pay for $5,000 amount in fees, from day one, they'll be charging you $5,500, $6,000. And if you don't pay back on time, they will be increasing this amount of interest. It will be compounding. So because of the use of interest, from the initial use of this card, right when they issue you this card, there's interest upon this card. This card is clearly impermissible and you're not allowed to use it. Now regarding the purchasing of gold, silver, and other currencies with these cards, it is permissible to use with debit cards and charge cards, the two cards that are permissible to use. And the condition is that the contract must occur immediately, that the goods must be handed over to each other immediately. Why is this? The AAOIFI, their organization, they term that exchange between currencies and exchange between gold and silver, they coin this as bay' al-sarf. Whereas the madhab of Ahnaf, we don't say that that's bay' al-sarf, but this is what the AAOIFI says. So because of that, between any two currencies, between dollars and rupees, if I were to trade between these two, the AAOIFI would consider this as bay' al-sarf. So all the conditions of bay' al-sarf would be found and must be found within this contract. So because of that, the settlement must occur immediately and no delay in payment can happen to the merchant. So fees and commissions, the bank, when they issue this card, they can charge you fees, and merchant commission is allowed. What does merchant commission mean? It is that businesses, when they take the payment of a credit card, they have to be paying a small percentage to the bank in order to use this type of payment. And any type of fee is permissible as long as it does not disguise interest payments. And sometimes you get privileges and you get some benefits with a card. You know, some banks, they give you the benefits of discounts whenever you go and buy coffee, whenever you go to this specific store. This specific card will give you 50% off on their drinks. And they also give you priority services, just like hotel, airline, and restaurant benefits. All of those types of benefits are permissible. But those benefits and privileges which are impermissible are the benefits involving haram activities, unconventional life insurance, conventional life insurance, and access to prohibited venues. So the key takeaways that we can take from this mi'yar, the Sharia standard, is that the use of debit cards are fully permissible. The use of charge cards, which are the credit cards of today's time, are permissible due to darura, due to a need. There's sometimes you can only purchase something with a credit card. You can only purchase a car with a credit card or a house with a credit card. Due to this darura, the usage of credit cards is halal so long as you do not delay in the payment. And the use of credit cards from 20 years ago, those are impermissible, not allowed to use because they're involved with interest. And the fees that are issued on these cards are allowed only for the actual services that they give you. So inshallah, we will conclude that the AAOIFI and its 60 Sharia standards, what do they do for us? They provide a clear and unified framework for Islamic finance. They ensure consistency in Sharia rulings across institutions and countries. They prevent confusion and non-compliance, especially regarding riba. They strengthen trust, governance, and credibility in Islamic financial institutions, and they support the sustainable growth of Islamic finance in a global environment. Jazakumullah khairan to all of you for listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.